Okay, good morning. My name is Raul Amin. I'm a psychiatrist and internist, and today this is introduction video module to the sleep behavioral training. Um, Below is my disclaimer. These are our objectives. So what we want to achieve for the next several minutes is to list components of the sleep behavioral training. One of the main concepts that you want to take away is the process C and process S. We want to recognize at least two functions of sleep. There are many more. Describe the role of dysfunctional thoughts and how it impacts your sleep, because that is going to be one of the things we're going to try to target. And then also you'd want to know what is the evidence for the type of training that you will be undergoing. And then finally give you an overview of what to expect for the 3 weeks that this training program entails. So, there's a huge prevalence of dissatisfaction with sleep. Sometimes people are not happy with the duration of their sleep. Sometimes it's the quality. Often it's both. And so sleep problems can be what's considered primary insomnia, which is the sleep itself, or it could be due to other reasons. For example, if someone has low back pain and they can't lie down, they may have sleep problems because of that, or they have anxiety or depression, for example. Sometimes people can have what's known as organic sleep problems, such as sleep apnea, for example, in which an individual may be overweight, may have a large neck, may snore pretty loud, things like that, which may be signs and symptoms of sleep apnea, for example. So regardless of what the underlying reason is for your sleep problems, given that you're doing this module in this training, this training should improve your sleep problems, regardless of what's causing it, because it will help you partake healthy beliefs and healthy behaviors related to sleep. So let's go over this slide. The takeaway here is that sleep is complex. So as you see in this cartoon image, there are various different changes that are going on. So let me zoom in. You have here awake state. The dark area shows when the person is asleep. So when you're asleep, your melatonin goes up, temperature drops towards the end of the night. Your stress hormones start to rise up throughout the sleep. So in the morning, they're the highest. It's one of the reasons cortisol is a stress hormone. It's one of the reasons why diabetics tend to have very high sugars in the morning. Since we're fasting and we're not really eating, it's one way your body makes sure that you're receiving enough nutrients in terms of glucose. Growth hormone behaves in a particular way. So the bottom line is you don't have to know any of this or all of this, but know that sleep is not just a state where you're not conscious. There are a lot of different physiological things that are happening. One of the comment I've put there is that the duration of sleep varies. So if you look at population, it can vary from somewhere between 5.7 to 7.1 hours, and then in the winter time, people tend to need more hours of sleep, about an hour longer in the winter time. So, so why use? This is one of our other objectives. Why use cognitive behavioral treatment for sleep? Right? Why are you doing this training? And the reason for this is because it's the best thing we have for chronic insomnia, people with sleep difficulties. It's a skill that you have to learn. It's sort of like learning how to ride a bicycle. Initially, you may not be very good at it, but with practice, you will. And once you have the skill, you can use it for the rest of your life, right? Unlike a pill, right? So a lot of our sleeping pills now, for example, one of the class of pills called benzodiazepines, what we are learning is that if you use that for more than 3 months, it can have issues down the line with your memories, for example. So on the right, unless this is something that you do and read scientific journals, it shows a bunch of different studies that looked at this type of treatment for insomnia, and the end result, that light green diamond, shows that it favored treatment, or CBT-i, right? You see that at the top. So CBT-insomnia. So what that shows is that all these studies, when combined, showed that this type of strategy was effective. So specific to this, so this was recently published, one of my article there, and I had used some medics actually. So you're learning this type of thing on your own. I had trained medics who have zero knowledge or training in terms of sleep, and they worked with folks similar to you who were having sleep issues, and this is what we found out. So one of the things you're going to be measuring and calculating on your own is going to be something called sleep efficiency. So as you see there, between treatment session 1, 2, and 3, sleep efficiency improved significantly, even by treatment session 2. Sleep duration improved in terms of satisfaction with sleep duration, right? So look at that, it goes from 1.36 on a scale of 1 through 5, so pretty low satisfaction, and it goes up significantly. So these are all statistically significant. And then finally, sleep quality also significantly improves between session 1, 2, and 3. So so the training you're going to be learning is based on this, and if you are someone who is into reading medical articles, you can look this up and read this to see what it all entailed. So switching lanes a little bit. So what are the functions of sleep? So sleep appears to be a very active process. It's not just that your brain is completely shut down when you're asleep. There are numerous changes that take place in our body, as I showed you earlier, all those hormonal changes. There are various stages. So each stage likely plays a different role. What we know is that it tends to take what we experience during the day and organizes and consolidates memory of those events. So in other words, it's super important for you to sleep well before an exam, for example, rather than what most people, which is cramming all night. So in my personal experience, I would tell you that I have found this to be very true. Even if I study less or I have not taken any tests in a very long time, but back when I did, I would do much better. We also know that people are much better at performing certain tasks. So there was a study where soldiers were shooting better at the range with their rifles when a sleep intervention was done in the group compared to the non-intervention group. There's so there's also other functions as well, but these are some of the known most well-known functions, and so these are some of the things that sleep is important for. But people can often attach a lot of other meanings to sleep, and sometimes these are not helpful. So some people think, if they're not getting good sleep, that they're going to get a heart attack, things like that. And chronically, people can have health problems like weight gain, things like that. But in the short term, those type of thoughts, attached meanings can be very unhelpful. And those are some of the things that we will address when we talk about the cognitive distortion modules. So this is probably one of the most important slide here, the process S and process C. So sleep requires two things to occur. You have to be sleepy enough, right? So I repeat, you have to be sleepy enough, and you have to not be alert. So you might think, well, these are probably the same thing, and these are not the same thing. These are two different mechanisms, right? So even though it sounds redundant, let's clarify this. Again, it's the most important concept that I would really want you to understand before you're done with this module. So the longer we stay awake, our body uses energy. And one of the byproducts of that energy is something called ADP. Don't worry about all of this. You can forget all about this, but the currency, the energy currency, right? Sort of the octane of that is called ATP, and then ATP gets broken down, and then you end up with ADP, alpha, delta, papa, which is the byproduct of that energy. So the longer that you're awake, the more ADP your brain is going to accumulate. In other words, the more energy you've been using because you've been awake, the more ADP you're depositing, right? And so ADP causes people to feel sleepy. S for sleepy, right? So that's the process S. So it increases tendencies to sleep based on the previous time awake. And part of the reason for that is that you've been accumulating ADP. You need to have sufficient amount of ADP to get to optimize your process S. So how can you mess up your process S? Well, imagine someone napping during the day, right? So instead of strengthening their process S, in other words, the sleepiness, the nap causes them to reduce their sleepiness. It happens because ADP, right, this chemical in the brain that causes you to feel tired, fatigued, and sleepy, when you take a nap, ADP gets recycled and flushed out, essentially. And so you're left with less amount of ADP, therefore you have less, you have a weaker process S. You have a subpar process S. The end result is tossing and turning when it's bedtime. So to get the optimal process S, by the time it's your bedtime, you have to have been awake long enough, right? So hopefully that clarifies this. Now let's look at process C, right? So process S stands for sleepiness. Process C C stands for circadian, right? So you've probably heard of circadian rhythm. So this is something that your body and brain controls. This is the rhythm that your body naturally sticks to. So human beings, we have a natural clock. It's close to 24 hours. It's slightly longer than that in some people. It's slightly shorter in other people, but nonetheless, this is sort of the biological clock that you have. So process C, or the circadian rhythm, maintains alertness. So when alertness increases, you wake up, right? So imagine in the middle of the night, as you progress through the night, what's going to happen to your process S? All that ADP is getting metabolized, right? And so your process S is going to get weaker. So you're becoming less sleepy, right? Because you've been sleeping all night. And what's going to happen to your process C? The alertness, that's going to increase, right? Process C is going to increase. So I'm going to show you a cartoon in a few slides that's going to hopefully make it make more sense. So when the alertness increases, you wake up. When alertness goes down and your process S is strong enough, you get sleepy and fall asleep. So process C, or your circadian rhythm, can be thrown off this normal rhythm due to certain behavior, right? So for example, staring at a bright screen, for example. So process E is controlled by one of the hormones that we previously looked at, called melatonin, right? So melatonin is one of the drivers of circadian rhythms for sleep, and then we know that light can mess with that, with process C. So going back, so from here on, as you think about your sleep, your goal needs to be, you want to have the strongest process S at the exact moment when your body is least alert. In other words, strongest process S and weakest process C. So you got the circadian rhythm, and you want to get yourself tired enough at the right time when your body is ready to fall asleep, which would be process C. So how can you do this? Well, you can do this by avoiding napping, inappropriately sleep, or avoiding sleeping in on days you're off, which can really screw up your sleep, put you in a jet lag type of situation. Avoiding stimulants like caffeine, Red Bull, things like that around bedtime, and having a good sleep hygiene. Also, other things that can help with the process S is exercising, making sure you're getting your 10,000 steps a day, so on and so forth. So the whole focus of this training, as we go through all the rituals, and you're going to be filling out forms, and you're going to be doing some math, is really to optimize your process S right when your process C is the weakest. So your body, your biological rhythm aligns with your process S. Most of that is in your control. And ultimately, we end up optimizing your process S and process C. So if you have any questions about process C or process S, you can come back and watch this module again, or contact me if you have any other questions. So this training, I'll repeat this, is we'll try to optimize process C and process S through two strategies. So I'll refer to this as CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. The cognitive part will help you address your thoughts, that may be contributing to your sleep problems. And then the behavioral will focus on certain behaviors that are contributing to your sleep issues. And ultimately, the goal is going to be to help synchronize your process C and process S. So in other concepts about talking about the C in cognitive behavioral therapy, or the cognitive cognition or thinking. So we can have certain beliefs or attitudes about sleep which can be unhelpful. Here are some examples of the type of thoughts that people can have about their sleep. So we're going to deal with this under the cognitive portion of the training. You'll fill out a questionnaire called DBAS that will help you identify the ones that pertain to you and the ones that may be contributing to your sleep problems. And then we're going to challenge those and try to address those separately. So more to come on these, but I wanted to just introduce you to this. So let's look at some examples. Let's look at the one about I need 8 hours of sleep to feel refreshed and function well during the day. So the green one there. All right, so so is that a helpful thought or belief to have? How do you know you need 8 hours of sleep exactly? So for the sake of ease, most people need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, but some people may need less. You probably don't really know exactly where you fall on that range. I personally need 6 to 7 hours. So if you're someone who needs 6 to 7 hours also, but get frustrated because you wake up, your body wakes up because before you hit the magic 8 hours, you're gonna get frustrated for no good reason. You're gonna be dissatisfied. You're gonna think that you're gonna get, somehow end up with poor health because you're not getting your 8 hours of sleep, which may or may not be helpful. So we're gonna discuss this whole issue of dysfunctional beliefs, cognitive distortions in subsequent modules. Now, let's come back to this for a refresher, right? So, here what you see is a cartoon of sort of process C and process S in action. So we're looking at this here. And so recall the process S and the process C discussion. And so now look at the graph, right? So process C is the black dotted line, which is the natural rhythm of alertness. So around 7 a.m., the person gets more and more alert, and that alertness starts to fall during evening and nighttime. Makes sense, right? That's what the body's supposed to do when the light goes down. And then process S is the blue line. So at nighttime, it goes down. So in the morning, you get more alert while you're getting less sleepy, right? So process S needs to go down as you've been sleeping throughout the night, so you can wake up feeling refreshed. However, this graph demonstrates some unhelpful behaviors, right? So you see there. So in the process S, the blue line, you see that the person ends up napping midday, and then that lowers his sleepiness. So we call this sleep inertia, which is essentially a fancy term for the drive to fall asleep. So what if you pull a long call, such as in red, that shows sleep deprivation? The sleep inertia or the drive to fall asleep goes super high. And so in this training, you will use some of these strategies, including some sleep deprivation, to increase your sleep or sleep inertia. So when you end up with your sleep prescription and you're like, what are we doing? Why am I sleep depriving myself? It really has to do with strengthening your process S in order to help you create more positive habits. related to your sleep behavior. On the right is actually just a copy of a typical sleep log, and it shows how the person goes to bed at various times. So the bottom two rows show the weekend behavior, where he goes to bed at 1 a.m. instead of the usual 11 p.m. and then ends up sleeping in until noon. So this type of person will obviously have issues and struggle on Sunday night when he tries to force his body to fall asleep at his usual 11 p.m. bedtime. He'll have problems because the body is just not sleepy, right? So he's got a weak process S, and his circadian rhythm, the process C, is shifted forward. So the darkened boxes show when he actually falls asleep, which tends to be around 1 or 2 a.m., but he tends to go to bed at 11 p.m., right? So he's just tossing and turning for up to 2 or 3 hours, which is not very helpful. So one of the things you will learn in this training is we are going to avoid you just laying on the pillow for hours on end. So the goal is going to be for you to spend the least amount of time awake while in this training. All right. So this is sort of the overall. If you have dysfunctional thoughts and dysfunctional beliefs, those can have negative effect on process S, and it will have problems for your sleep drive. So dysfunctional thoughts, worrying thoughts can cause frustration, muscle tension, racing heart. It increases stress hormones, which can be stimulating, and you may actually feel more awake and totally unhelpful. So it's hard to fall asleep when you're in that fight or flight response. So we're going to try to target those dysfunctional thoughts, and we're going to try to target dysfunctional beliefs. So these unhelpful behaviors will cause you inability to sleep when you want to or need to, and then that will result in more frustration, and so the behavior will lead to the cognition. The cognitions will lead to behaviors, so on and so forth. And so these are some of the things that you will learn to optimize. So in summary, in this training, you will target your dysfunctional thoughts and behaviors. You are going to require motivation, self-discipline in order to be rewarded with this freedom from sleep-related concerns. You are going to be covering these knowledge and skills over a 3-week period, and then you will adjust your sleep prescription, and you will do that for a week, and then each week you will go to a particular link on the website, on the web page, in order to go to the next module. This is the outline of what you should expect. So each week you will complete the assessment form, and you'll need to print that, and you'll fill it out, and then you'll go to the link on the website where you will submit that data. So you're going to transfer what's on the form, your scores and whatnot, onto the web page, and then subsequently you'll be given a new link. From that link you'll end up going through various modules. Ultimately, as you go through the training, you'll end up completing the module each week by coming up with a new sleep prescription using that sleep prescription form. And in this, you'll have to do some math and some calculations, and don't worry about that. Each week there's going to be a video that will walk you through it step by step. So as you have today, you'll come to this web page and select the week and follow each step. You'll need to have access to a printer. So ideally, you should watch the video on a computer, laptop, or a tablet, something with a bigger screen, so you can easily follow the training instructions. The data that you're asked to input, right? So when you print out those forms and you fill it out, it's a two-page form. You're being asked to input that into the website each week. And the reason for that is that is going to be the feedback mechanism for the training module, so that I can improve this and make sure that people are actually getting benefit from going through these modules. So overall, you're committing to about 3 hours of total time, 3 to 4 hours, and most of your time will be spent on week 1, because we're introducing all these new topics, including this overview of the program that you're getting. But I think it's going to be a worthwhile, value-added time investment, and I hope that the training will serve you for many years to come. If you have any feedback, please submit that through the webpage by going through the feedback link, and would love to hear from you. Otherwise, good luck and happy learning.